Welcome back, everyone. I'm John Dispenza, and much like any good beer, I started in the beer den. Now you can find me on Untapped Drinking Socially podcasts every Wednesday, but welcome back to Virtual Beer Hunting, and with me is...
Yes, I'm Harrison Hickok, the second and better, John can hear me, better half of Untapped Drinking Socially podcast. You can also find me at my local Lowe's Foods on Thursdays for the best pint deal in North Carolina.
It's still warm here in Carolina, or arguably oppressive, but we've got some cold beers ready to go for this virtual beer hunt based out of Asheville, North Carolina.
That's right. So Asheville, as we probably all know, is home to over 30 different craft breweries, and we are featuring 3 of them, the best, on today's show. So we're going to start with High Wire, their Circus Fest Oktoberfest, and then their Low Pitch Hazy IPA.
And then from Wicked Weed, we've got Labont Rosé and Pernicious IPA.
And then we're going to finish up with Highland Brewing Company, their Clawhammer Oktoberfest, and the one and only Gaelic Ale. And if you guys would like to jump on the interwebs and do social media stuff, great. Please do share your beer pics, your food pics, your dogs wearing booties pics, whatever is happening in front of you. John's going to tell you how.
Yeah, so for social media, you're going to want to tag Lowe's Foods, of course, on any of those social platforms. Use @Lowe's Foods and use the hashtags Beer Hunting Season, Virtual Beer Tasting, and Virtual Hunt Club. Those are going to help everybody find and see your dogs in their boots. And Harrison, tell them about the hard part of today's event.
Yeah, so I usually pack my brain up for the weekend, starting on Friday around 5 p.m., sometimes Friday at noon, but not this weekend. You guessed it, trivia's back. So we're going to tell you how to join in and all the fun. Look up on the screen now, you'll see that QR code. Great, scan that on your phone and sign in with your email address. So today's trivia is going to have 3 rounds. Each round is going to have 5 questions plus a bonus question. Each question is worth 50 points. Bonus questions are worth 100. And this is always the make or breaker here. The first person to answer correctly, each question gets an additional 15 points. Grand prize gets their next beer box for free. Second prize, a $30 gift card to the Beer Den. Third, fourth, and fifth. You also get consolation prizes too, don't worry. And the game and prizes are only available to those of you guys watching us live. But if you're joining after the fact, you can still have fun, quiz your roommate, your dog, whatever you want to do.
And more importantly, don't listen to the answers that Harrison and I guess. They will very, very likely be wrong or totally misinformed. And also, if you're wondering how to check into the beers you're going to drink on Untapped, you can use the QR code that's up on the screen right now. That's going to be the easy way. It's going to take you right to the event page where you can select the beer you're drinking, check it in, and earn a badge. Lowe's has been awesome. They've been having unique Untapped badges for all of these events, so make sure you check in and earn this one. Or, again, the hard way. Harrison can walk you through that one.
Yeah, this is how my dad would do it. So open up the Untapped app, type in the name of the beer you're drinking in the search bar. Once you see your beer, tap it and hit the green check-in button. Tap location to add the Lowe's Foods store where you bought your beer box, or you can tap the Lowe's Foods Presents Virtual Beer Hunting event location. Snap a photo, rate the beer. Feel free to add some notes before you hit that green check-in button again. And remember, you must check in to one of the 5 beers you're tasting today and add the location as the Lowe's Foods store or the Lowe's Foods Presents Virtual Beer Hunting event. In order to earn the badge, that is key. You need the beer and location to unlock this badge.
A 2-part problem, much like algebra. No, thank you. I'll take the easy route. And if you want to be part of the conversation tonight or have questions that you're going to want to ask the people coming in to talk about their beers and their brewery, make sure you check out the Watch on YouTube button on your screen. And that way you can interact with us live during the event. And while you're doing it, again, hashtag beer hunting season, virtual beer tasting, and virtual hunt club. Put those hashtags, in your posts all over the internet. So now we are so close. It's about the time where we can actually start having some fun here. Grab those beers, grab one of the pint glasses, maybe one of them that came in your beer box from Lowe's. We're going to be back in 60 seconds, starting with Peter from Wire Brewing, and we're going to be enjoying Circus Fest Oktoberfest beer. We'll see you in 60 seconds.
All right, welcome back, everybody, and welcome Peter to the show. How's it going?
Good. How y'all doing?
We are great. I think I speak for both of us. Right, got a beer in hand. That's the way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, excited to talk tonight about these beers, man. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I guess we get on into it.
Yeah, let's do it. Go ahead and pour yourself that Circus Fest. While you're doing that, so this isn't just any old Marzen. You guys won the gold medal in 2016 at the Great American Beer Festival for German-style Marzen. I mean, this is like world-class stuff. Tell me about kind of a little about this beer. Let's start there. Sure.
Yeah, this is our head brewer Luke's, like one of his babies, one of his projects. The guy, he loves lagers, and so I started chatting with him about this before coming onto the show with you guys, and I was like, where was the inspiration for this? And they're actually like, he told me there's not a specific beer, like this was just his brainchild. Like that's how this came to be. So yeah, this is just his interpretation of what a Marzen should taste like. Yeah.
It seems like he did a pretty good job. I'm only about 18 sips into this one.
Yeah.
My sadness is that it's halfway gone already.
Yeah, it's good. It's killer. I mean, we can't keep the stuff in the store on the shelves. Like every Friday, I see the beer order come up to my location, and I'll try and come in on Saturday and get a 6-pack, and it's gone. And I work there, so
it's already gone. And it's still only August, which is amazing. This is really like the beginning of, you could argue, almost not even
sooner every year, right?
Right, exactly. Oktoberfest is a state of mind. I feel like the best time to drink a Marzen is when it's right in front of you.
Yep.
And don't think any more than that on it. But yeah, this is delicious. So, okay, cool. So brainchild, and you guys are known for being such a well-rounded brewery, amazing sours, crazy IPAs, the huge stout series. You guys do the 10W stuff. It's awesome. But as you said, this is a lager. You guys brew a couple of those too, but is this something that like you guys, I don't know, people ask for like all year, or is it really like when it comes out, like you said, people freak out about it and it's just hard
it's an all year thing. It doesn't end. All year round, people want us, and we constantly get asked like, can't you just go in the back and just make a little bit more for us? Like that's a common question we get. Yeah. So,
amazing.
Sure. Yeah, it's good. Yeah. I'm glad every time it comes around, every year it comes around, I'm excited to get that first 6-pack.
So one of the questions I've been begging to ask everyone at Highwire, you guys seem to have maybe a sort of obsession with the circus, and we're drinking an Oktoberfest beer, and I love talking about food. So here's my question, Peter. If you're drinking an Oktoberfest beer and you're at a circus, what sort of food are you looking to pair with this one?
So if you're at like your standard North Carolina circus, like, I mean, the best thing you can pair with is probably like a funnel cake. But if you're at maybe like a nicer circus, I would go with a soft pretzel.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for soft pretzels. I love, every time I go somewhere and they have one of those, I have to make sure I can get it. And I pick it apart. I pick apart soft pretzels like I do beer. So I feel like that's a perfect combination for this. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Just salty. Yeah, perfectly baked. Yeah, absolutely.
Mustard, no mustard, spicy mustard, yellow?
Mustard, spicy mustard for sure. Yep. Anything besides that, it has no place on a pretzel.
Yeah. Yes, right. Let's let pretzels. I think we've mastered that. We've hit peak pretzel about 200 years ago. Let's not mess with it. I agree.
Yeah.
This is great.
I may be making it up because you just sold me a soft pretzel in my imagination, but you can, in an Oktoberfest, I get sometimes those like malty notes where I swear
you
could,
absolutely do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like
without a doubt,
pretzel.
like that nutty biscuity. So this includes a biscuit type malt. And so you're definitely going to taste some of that. And then also this includes, and this is one of the more unique things that we do with our Oktoberfest, is the addition of honey malt, which is one of my favorite malts. It's a staple in certain beers that I make. I use it all the time. And this includes a small percentage of it. And that really brings out just a wonderful honey, toasty, biscuity aroma and flavor. And yeah, definitely it reminds me of like the crust of the pretzel as just the crust kind of thing. Yeah.
Yes. That's what I get. Yeah, I never say it, but almost looks almost
absolutely.
The color of a
It
pretzel.
does. It does.
Right.
And the way you pour this beer is different because like at my brewery, I always drink out of a tulip glass. It's just I like the shape of it. That's just me. So it doesn't matter what beer I'm drinking. It's always out of a tulip glass.
Cool.
And this beer looks different, so different depending on what kind of glass you drink it in. So like right now, looking at it with you guys, it's significantly lighter than I remember. Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
That's for sure. And it's, that obviously, you drink with your eyes before you drink with your mouth. So drinking it now like this out of a pint glass, I feel like this is really the way I should have been drinking it the whole time. But,
right.
Yeah.
Or a liter or a half liter, depending on what time of day.
Does around this time of year, Peter, can I go to Highwire and find people with giant steins of this stuff around? Do you guys have any sort of like cool glassware that you do as well?
I remember at the Big Top, we did steins for a while. I don't think we're currently doing those right now. I remember we had Stein Night, and I think that because of how things have changed in the bar scene around here in Asheville,
sure.
I don't think we're currently doing that, but I could definitely see us getting back to it. I mean, we love brewing lagers, and lagers sometimes they're meant to be drank in a liter format. Yeah.
Stein Night also sounds like Uber night for
me.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Exactly. Yeah. I think it was also like on a Tuesday. So good luck on your Wednesday.
I was going to say Wednesday morning's bacon, egg, and cheese morning. If it wasn't already, but nothing wrong with that.
No, nothing at all.
That's awesome. Well, this is delicious, and I'm happy that it's right. You just mentioned it changes the color, when depending on the glass we were looking at it through, but it's definitely a nice amber lager. Sometimes you see Oktoberfest a little lighter. Sometimes they're fest beers, which are great. But this is more of like the full-bodied experience that you would expect from a Polliner, from a Spaten, like the real Munich breweries, which is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the one thing. Like this is like my weekday lager. If I'm only gonna have 2 or 3 beers in an evening, for sure. But then of course on a Saturday, if we're out with friends and all that, then I'll move over to the fest beers kind of thing. If I want to, playing frisbee golf or going mountain biking, I'm definitely going to want the lighter style of things.
Right. Smart. That's great.
Professional beer.
And we have a fest beer out. I don't know if that's going to be, which markets that's all going into, but that fest beer is, in my opinion, second to this. It's an incredible lager.
Oh, fantastic. I didn't know you guys did that. No, all right. And I'm just adding it to my list.
Yeah, absolutely. I just saw the cans of it for the first time this past week. So it should be hitting store shelves soon. Yeah.
That fest beer versus this one, is the biggest difference in there like ABV, or do you guys do any other secrets you can tell me about that would make it different?
The ABV is a big difference for sure, but the fest beer is definitely going to be a little bit, it's still a malty fest beer, but less of the darker, like how this is an amber lager.
Yeah.
That's more of a little more of a blonde color, but it's still a malty lager. Like, it doesn't have a big hop finish, lower IBU, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Nice.
Great.
Yeah. Both very, very crushable. I mean, I always forget how dry this beer is.
Yeah.
And it's every year it comes around and it's wonderful.
It's great. It's making me thirsty for more though, which is kind of the point. That's that great thing about any beer when you want to keep drinking it. And we have more than just Circus Fest to enjoy. So we're going to be back in 5 minutes with Peter. We're going to enjoy the next beer, Low Pitch Hazy IPA, of course. And while you guys finish drinking your Circus Fest, we have a video from Jordan at the Beer Den and the team at Highwire. Make sure you pay attention because something tells me what you learn in the video, maybe it's going to pay off in the first round of trivia. I don't know. A little birdie told me. A huge owl that is behind me. No, a different bird. Anyway, go check it out.
Thanks, John and Harrison. Guess what? I'm still here in Asheville, and this time I'm hanging out at the Highwire Brewing Company Big Top facility. with my friend Javier. Thanks for having some time for us today, man.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for coming by.
Absolutely. So your title is Creative Director, is that right?
That's correct.
Awesome. Well, do you mind just telling us a little bit about the history of Highwire, how it all got started?
Yeah, Highwire started in 2013. Chris Frossecker and Adam Charnak and a couple other close friends decided to bring balanced and approachable beers to Asheville, North Carolina. We started in downtown on Highwire South Slope, which is basically like a brewing district here in Asheville in Western North Carolina. And they started distributing beers right off the bat, just brewing really drinkable, approachable beers.
The facility and the brand kind of emulates that kind of good times, fun, easygoing, not too serious kind of culture, isn't that right?
Yeah, we want people to walk in and just take a breath of fresh air and be like, okay, I can relax here. Yeah. And, not feel overwhelmed by all the craft beer choices. We definitely pride ourselves in innovating and pushing the limits, but in the end, it's about hanging out, having a good time, and hanging with friends and, trying a lot of different options that you could just kind of not feel overwhelmed by what you're walking into. So with our, a lot of the art, the murals we put on the walls, a lot of the branding and the colors we use, we just want it to be fun because we think beer should be fun.
You have your hand pretty heavily on, in terms of the label art and photography and videography and even murals on the wall and what the space feels like inside. Tell us a little about some of your packaging and what are your favorites?
I'd say, the newest one is typically my favorite. I always enjoy working on new ideas here, and Highwire, we love to always be innovating and bring new ideas to the table. So this is our most recent collaboration with Weed Brewing. You may have heard of them. Yeah. And this was kind of a melding of the two brands. We try to keep things, as streamlined as possible and just tap into what people seem to enjoy, which is like things they can digest, which goes back to the approachability of the beer, of the beer styles themselves. Just balanced and approachable, drinkable.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Javier. Appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
With locations in Asheville, Durham, Wilmington, there's really no excuse not to go check out Highwire Brewing Company. Well, Javier just told us a little bit about the brewery itself. We're over here in the event center now, and we've got Robin, the event coordinator for Highwire Brewing Company here. Robin, tell us a little bit about the events that you do in this space.
For sure, Jordan. In this space, we have 2,500 square feet in this room. So we have things like corporate dinners, weddings, rehearsal dinners. Today we had a corporate luncheon that had a tasting featured. That was super fun. Our brewery also has many different small and large festivals throughout the year as well.
Awesome. And you do some like weekly things every week that you kind of do on a regular basis, right?
We do. So every Tuesday is community yoga. Every Wednesday we have trivia night that's free and you can win prizes. And then Thursdays we have pint night, which proceeds of all the sales go to local communities.
Okay. And tell me about some of the wildest and most unique events that you guys have had here, because you got a little reputation for doing some crazy stuff.
We do a lot of crazy and fun things. So every Valentine's Day we do a car smashing where people pay $5 for a hit on an old car. So we have bats and sledgehammers, spray paint, the works, which is a ton of fun. We're known to do sumo wrestling. We have quarterly drag brunches. So every year, our anniversary party, Highwire becomes what we're known for here at the Big Top. We do a big festival, big carnival, where we have aerialists, stilt walkers, roaming acts, and then a Ferris wheel and different carnival games. So this year, actually this Sunday, we're having our anniversary party. We're having a live national band here and then different circus acts performing. We have a lot of big corporate groups that come through. So a few months ago, we had this corporate group come in. They draped our entire room in drapery, like a big top circus tent. We had live aerialists in here. We had a man on stilts walking around, fire breathers. It was pretty insane.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. Sounds great. And in the end, Highwire Brewing Company is all about having a lot of fun. Like Steve here. Now back to the beer.
Well, that was fun. And welcome back, everyone. Same old Peter, brand new beer. What do we got in front of us here, Peter?
This is our low pitch Hazy IPA. This is our hazy sessionable IPA. Yeah.
I love it. Boom.
Yeah.
I'm already right. I've already had one full sip, probably 2 more in this glass. I'll try and pace myself. This is one of those beers, like you were talking about, like kind of playing Frisbee golf. This one could end up in the backpack that day and be a pretty sweet companion. It's very drinkable. And you know, I'm kind of saying the obvious here. I'm assuming one of the goals when you guys set out to make this beer was let's find a sessionable beer that can go anywhere with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And we did a slight little tweak in the recipe, maybe like a year and a half ago, just to make that more drinkable, more sessionable, and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
That's awesome. One of the things that always catches my eye about this can, and John and I actually had it on the Drinking Socially podcast earlier this season. We enjoyed this on one of the first episodes of the year. And we were talking about this cool part of the back of the can, this little logo that says, please rouse before pouring.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me more about that. I'm assuming the haze has something to do with it, but tell me what's going on there?
So I went to school for brewing like 10, 11 years ago. And
Yes.
The thing is, like, we tried so hard in this industry to make clear beer. It turns out that making hazy beer is actually maybe more difficult. So this beer in particular, the haze can settle. And so if you're a hazy drinker, like, you might need to rouse, give it a little shake, little stir prior to pouring it, which is kind of an age-old tradition. I mean, like, Hefeweizens are supposed to be drank cloudy and yeasty because, you know, it adds that mouthfeel kind of thing. So Hefeweizens for the longest time, you know, you get a Weinstefan, like, you pour it, you swirl it a little bit, you dump that in. And this it's an age-old tradition that we're now putting into, you know, American IPAs. Yeah.
I love it. I remember being a bar back long ago, flipping over a lot of kegs of certain wheat beers to keep them hazy in the cooler. So that's awesome. You can kind of do that at home.
Yeah, and this one is very fresh. So I mean, I don't know if you guys can see from over there, but this is very fresh. So it's pouring hazy for me with no rousing at all.
Yeah. Came out.
Yeah. Turns out making hazy beer it's tough. Keeping it stable is really hard to do. And we do a great job of it, but there's a certain point where it just goes.
Right.
I can't even keep a salad dressing stable very long.
Gravity always wins. Never bet against gravity, folks. I love it. All right, cool. So let's talk a little bit about the hops in this beer. So obviously I'm getting like a lot of citrus notes. Can you reveal a little bit about the hop bill and kind of what I'm tasting?
Yeah, the dry hop is Simcoe Sabro, and that definitely like dominates in the dry hop profile. Dry hops always dominate. The Whirlpool, you know, we have Whirlpool hops in it, and that is like a structure for what the dry hops are going to do. In my personal opinion, that's how it kind of works with IPAs. Yeah. So the Whirlpool also has, I believe it's Laurel and Simcoe, and I think Equinaut at 10 minutes in there also. And then but the ones that really shine are the Simcoe and the Sabro. So fresh like this right now, like, you know, a month into this beer, Sabro, I almost even get like a little bit of like a coconutty kind of mouthfeel to it. And then the Simcoe, it leans more into that like citrusy grapefruit peel pine kind of flavor.
Yeah.
Simcoe is not what it used to be. So that's what that's what we're getting now. Like that hop has really changed in 8 years. Yeah.
I was going to say, that would surprise me. Simcoe used to be known for being so dank and other flavors. Caddy, right? People would say.
Yeah. I haven't had a Caddy Simcoe beer in forever. I mean, that hop just, eventually just evolved and changed, and that's what we have now. And it's a beautiful thing. It's like an upgraded Centennial almost. Yeah. It's nice. Yeah. It's wonderful. I love it. This is my go-to if I'm taking home what we call low fills at the brewery. So if the free beer that we get to take home, this is low pitch is my go-to for sure.
Low pitch, low fills all day. I love it.
Yeah. Also because I don't work at the facility that has the Oktoberfest, so I don't get there in time to take that home.
Yep.
Yeah, they get it. Everyone else gets it first.
Put some aside for Peter.
Handful of job applications coming in now. One of the things that I always want to ask a brewer, like making beer, probably not as easy as anyone thinks it is. Just go back and produce more Oktoberfest. But I think naming a beer may be even harder. And you guys, like I said, stick with this kind of circus theme. So with low pitch, do you have any inclinations into where this name came from?
If I'm not mistaken, you got the low pitch trapeze artists, which is the lower pitch, and we also have a beer called the high pitch, which is like the guys that are way up high, like, oh, that guy could fall and die. The low pitch is like the more like slackline level of stuff. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. And with that, I'm assuming naturally that tells me the low pitch is something I could drink, mow the lawn, maybe even trapeze with a net. The high pitch is for Saturdays.
The high pitch is for that beer is for Saturdays for sure. Absolutely killer. I love high pitch. That's for sure. Like it's but I'm the type of person I want to have 3 or 4 beers sometimes. You know, I don't want to just have the one. And so that's where low pitch comes in. Yeah.
And you guys have done juicy low pitch for a while. Do you know, I want to ask maybe, and you can just tell me to shut up, but was there something as you're doing juicy and you're like, all right, let's take this up a notch and let's put a whole bunch of suspended things in here and make it hazy? Was that the premise that made you go down this path?
No, the premise was mostly like we wanted it to be just a little more sessionable, and taste buds change over time. Like the way I always say it is, IPAs are here to stay. IPAs are America's beer. We're all going to be drinking IPAs until the day we die. That's the thing. And it's just, what's the next trend? Like, is it now it's hazy? I mean, hazy's going to stick around for a while. And then what's the one after this? Remember when it was black IPAs? Remember when it was blue IPAs? Like, that's the thing. It's like, that's always, that's just where we're at right now. It's going to change. This one's sticking around a lot longer than all the other ones, but you know, it's going to change eventually. And so we made this because our taste buds evolved with IPAs as well. So we wanted this, so we brewed this. Yeah.
Does
that answer your question?
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I think that was a perfect answer.
Nailed it.
And I want to drink more of it. So you're on the right path. Yeah.
Right on.
I know, right? And that kind of feels too good to be true. This beer does. In fact, that it kind of tastes like almost like a double IPA or a single IPA, but it's 5.5%. So if you could tell us a little bit about that kind of the process of trying to like dial in. I know you guys said you revisited this about a year and a half ago to like get it to that nice balance of it's sessionable, it's not overly bitter, it's not too malty, like all that kind of magic. Does it take a couple of runs through the pilot system, or is this kind of like
it did take a few runs through the pilot system because we wanted to drop the bitterness, but at the end of the day, like we really wanted to still be bitter, because IPAs, in my personal opinion, should have a little bit of bitterness to them. And I'm not going to knock any IPA that doesn't, but so we wanted that, but we wanted to drop it back from whenever people were just trying to do 100 IBU beers. Another trend, I'm sure you guys remember that.
Unfortunately,
yes. Oh yeah, my tongue never forgets.
Yeah, we wanted to drop it back a little bit from that, and I think that we did. And we still wanted bitterness though to balance out the malt profile, and then also, and then complement the dry hops as well. And we have a pretty unique way of dry hopping this beer, which is that we essentially create a slurry and then pump that slurry of hops into the beer. So we get a crazy amount of extraction from that dry hop. Yeah. It's not just usually, I mean, if you've ever homebrewed beer before or ever seen in a brewery before, a lot of people just drop the hops in the top, and then you don't get the same, it's a different flavor profile. And both have a place, but this one is what we found worked good for this. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Every time I talk to someone that makes beer, I learn a new thing that makes me afraid to ever try it professionally. Thanks for sharing. I'm going to blow up something in my closet soon, and I'm going to probably call you for help afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. I'm here. Yeah.
Peter, thanks so much for sharing your stories about Highwire and your beers with us.
Yeah, this was
I'm
awesome,
going to
man.
let you go drink some of them off camera. But again, thank you so much for taking the time out of your afternoon for us today.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I'm glad I get to come here and tell you guys all about our beer.
Yeah, I enjoyed that guy, but man, thanks so much. Have a great one.
Yeah. Y'all too.
Sweet.
And with that, right, Harrison, now it's time for naps. No.
Right, I got to think. Right, I got to turn my brain on. I was just enjoying Peter telling us all these cool stories, but now we got to think, John, and really we got to distract everyone else from being correct, but
Yep. Fortunately, we're not allowed to play, but we will try and distract you because trivia is coming up. I should have invited Peter. That would have been unfair. For everybody watching, anyone that can scan this QR code, this is your ticket to entry into the Lowe's Foods Trivia Circus. I don't know if I can say that without anyways, while you're getting your phones ready, scan this QR code. Make sure you sign in with your email address. We need that email address because that's how you get your prize if you win. There's going to be 4 rounds, 5 questions, and 1 bonus question every round.
Ooh.
So the 5 questions, regular, standard, 50 points. The bonus question, 100 points.
What?
Right? The bonus question is like make or break. And the first person to answer correctly, this is your secret nudge. You get an additional 15 points if you answer correctly. I'm getting a note from Bob Barker's producer. 3 rounds of trivia. I misspoke. You can rest your brains a little bit early. 3 rounds of trivia, 5 questions, and 1 bonus question. By now, everybody should have had time to scan this code. And remember, grand prize, you get your next beer box for free. You can do this all over again on September 25th for $3, which is the best price point ever. The game and the prize are only available if you're watching live. If you're joining us after the fact, bring the family together and have a quiz and try and beat your friends and family.
That's right.
Alone on the couch.
Right. Ask your kids why they don't know beer answers. No, don't do that. All right, cool. So leaderboard, this is just probably who signed up first. So this is all going to change. Good job, Tracy. You get that SAT. Oh, and we're off. All right. First one's about Highwire. Were you paying attention?
7 tap rooms.
Yeah, they're moving, and this is new. One of these, I think, is just open or about to open.
Non-Carolina Highwire location.
That's right. Highwire is on the move. Who? It was Louisville. No one.
Well, okay. There's your lesson. You got to watch Jordan in his videos. The guy's bringing the heat, and that's where you're going to get your answers from. I wouldn't have known Louisville either. Maybe Buffalo.
No, I lied. The leaderboard didn't change.
Yep. No.
That was a warm up.
Okay.
Warm up question. Now we're all awake. Now we're all listening. Ooh. Humna.
Again, paying attention may help. It's definitely one of these 4. I know that much.
I know as well. Let's hope it is. Yes, that's
it was the beer we all just drank.
Circus Fest. Love that name.
Your LinkedIn's. You've drank a gold medal winner, GABF.
That's right. Oh, that's delicious. All right, here we are. Stephen Davis. So Stephen, Dirk, Stephen. Here we go again. Jim and Hannah. But that Stephen got it in first, which is the difference right now.
Yep. And here comes, what is this? The 3rd question. Highwire's main production facility in Asheville. What's the name of it?
Yeah. And also, pro tip, don't wait for us to read it. Read as fast as possible and answer as fast as possible. Because again, those 15 points for answering first are on the table. But I like Mountain Layer as an expansion idea.
Yep, absolutely. I think that's where Skeletor lived.
That's where all the barrels could go. Put all the barrels in the Mountain Layer, right? And Skeletor can watch them and talk to He-Man, whatever they do together. All right, huge switch up.
Steven, I think, is the only one that held on from the first one. This is great.
Fun. This made me laugh. And there's some good. All these answers are great.
Yeah, the 3 incorrect answers would still be a great Valentine's Day event.
Yep. Some more permanent than others. There it is. Smash a car.
No one went for the tattoo. I think one time at Lowe's Foods, I got a tattoo at the self checkout. It was an add-on. It was good.
Cool. Sweet. All right, the leaderboard is rocking and rolling. Steven's still hanging on. We got. Here's another question. What hop is the featured hop and Highwire's flagship high pitch IPA. I almost said this as a question and then didn't.
Yep. When
But
Peter was talking about the hops they put in low pitch, those were not common hops.
yeah,
that
I
I
know.
see all the time. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, Sabro's making moves right now, but that's cool what he was talking about with Simcoe, changing it up. Mosaic, that is the answer. And I think technically in the name now, they call it high pitch Mosaic IPA. So if you knew that, as most of you did.
I think this is the most active leaderboard shifting we've ever seen at a Lowe's Foods event.
Yep, it's gone. Yeah, totally different. Bonus question, 100 points.
Ooh, all right.
Whoa.
This is you have to have experience to know the answer to this one right away.
I always have some positive vibes in my back pocket for this exact occasion, John. Sitting there, it's my old Grateful Dead ticket. It rubs right off.
Wow, we got a lot of experienced drinkers here on the show today. Although whoever picked positive vibes, bonus points from Harrison's imaginary collection.
Exactly right. Good for you. Great job on trivia, everybody, though. Killing it. Looking great. A lot of smart people out there. It's anybody's game to start.
2 more rounds after this one, right?
That's right, but only 2. So don't think round number 4, that's my round. There is no round number 4. It cannot be your round.
It's going to be my round. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Right. All right. We'll be back in 1 minute with Justin, the Chief Commercial Officer from Wicked Weed Brewing to Taste there on Levante Rose Farmhouse Ale. Let's do it.
Welcome back, everyone. We've got Justin from Wicked Weed with us on the show now. Justin, welcome to the show. Really excited to hear you talk about this one.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Look forward to it.
Absolutely. This is going to be awesome. Let's open up this bad boy and enjoy some farmhouse ale. It is a hot day. I was actually moving boxes all day, so not exactly doing the work, farmhand work, but farmhand amount of sweat, I guess, if that's a hierarchy of sweat. So anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about this beer. So farmhouse ale style. For anyone curious, what's that all about? What's happening there?
Well, I think at Wicked Weed, we're known for our sours and IPAs, and especially barrel-aged, wild fermented sours. And I think in Belgium, they have a tradition, open fermentation out on the farms. The wild yeast blows in, the terrain out there gives a certain characteristic to the beer. And they have these beautiful beers out there that have now come to the United States, started on the West Coast. We brought a lot of that to the East Coast. And so we were one of the first conveyors of wild yeast sours on the East Coast. And I remember first selling these beers, not Levante Rosé, but just barrel-aged sours in general. We're competing against Rodenbach and maybe Cascade and New Belgium La Folie. And people really don't even
aren't even aware of the style out here. And then now to see what it is, even 8 years later, all small breweries and big breweries are doing wild yeast sours. And we're excited to show this part of our portfolio off because we love this side of our business, and it even blends into our natural wines that we now do. So this beer is called Levante Rosé. It's a Brett Farmhouse beer. So we have barrel-aged sours and Brett Farmhouse. Our barrel-aged sours are aged in individual barrels, bourbon, wine, different spirit barrels. And then we have our Brett Farmhouse that are aged in a single foeder, a really large wine vessel. So everything that comes through our sour program has a primary fermentation with Brettanomyces yeast. And when you describe it to people who are the traditional beer drinkers and you're talking about funkiness and barnyard flavors, it doesn't sound very desirable to the IPA or lager drinker. And, I compare it to when people talk about cheeses and high-end cheeses, and they talk about the funkier, the better, just they're comfortable with the verbiage. And I think that's half of it, being able to be experimental and showcase the talents of our brewing staff and the innovation that we have. So we have our primary fermentation. We use Riverbend Malt, which is a local malt house in West North Carolina. And we do a primary fermentation. We actually do it in very horizontal barrels to give it a different type of fermentation than a tall, basically something that's is going to put a lot of stress on the yeast. So we are trying to showcase the yeast. Our house Brettanomyces here is going to give off a lot of funkiness to it. Ours gives off a little bit of tropical and punchy fruit flavors. So one thing we want to do when we made Levante Rosé, so we have Levante Pear, which showcases pear. We have Garçon on our Brett Farmhouse series that shows off peaches. And this one shows off some of the grapes. So we got Cascade grapes from Oregon. We fermented on the grape skins, and we have some grapes out there from Oregon. And
Wow.
We do a primary fermentation with Brettanomyces, and then we age it in a really large foeder. It's actually a French cognac foeder. It's 120 barrels wide. You'll see it on some of the videos that they showed. We actually had French Coopers fly in, assemble the barrels in-house. It was unbelievable to watch. And we've been making ciders and Brett Farmhouse beers and some of our other beers here. And so instead of being in unique individual barrels, if we were to talk about a 60-barrel batch of barrel-aged sour, it would be done in individual bourbon barrels or individual wine barrels. This is done in one vessel. You're still going to get the flow of the beer in and out of the barrel to pick up that oak characteristic. But this is typically going to take us about 4 to 6 months to make this beer, whereas our barrel-aged sours take around 8 to 16 months. And so it's an amazing process. They puree down the fruits, the grapes. They put them in there. They put a primary fermentation of Brettanomyces. They put a certain portion of our sour beer cassette, which is a house culture yeast, into it. So these are going to have less acidity than our barrel-aged sours typically. And it's just a beautiful representation of what beer can be. I've tried a lot of beers that at 4 months, it was really just not a good beer. It wasn't something we were going to release to the market. And you give it 2 more months, the Brettanomyces continues to work, change the flavor profile of the beer, and it's an elegant beer served at a beer dinner or talked about like how they talk about wines, how they compare with foods. And that's what we really like to showcase in this portfolio.
That's awesome.
With something like this, Justin, an intentionally soured beer, the first time I drank one, I assumed it was an accident, and then 10 more, and you start to develop a taste for it. With you guys as Wicked Weed, kind of like you said, pioneering it on the East Coast. Is there any like tips or tricks you might suggest to me if this is one of my first sour beers and I'm just trying to figure them out?
Absolutely. One of my favorite things is to taste their beers with people. And when I ask them if they like beer or wine, and they say they like wine, I know they're going to like our sour beer. But sometimes it just takes an acceptance of what you're about to try. And so sometimes it's about getting your palate ready. So usually just take a small sip, let your palate adjust to the acidity so you can really taste the layers and complexity that we're used to in wines, and how people talk about aging wines and cellaring wines, and this 2012 vintage of wine versus this 2016. And that's really what you get with sour beer versus an IPA that you want to be very fresh. So yeah, I love to just make sure people's mindset is correct as they go into the tasting. And I think Peter mentioned earlier, a lot of what you taste is with your eyes. I think 70% of what you taste is really a visual experience. And so typically we like to pour them in a nice snifter glass or a wine glass, and it really opens up the aromatics. And also the temperature that you serve it at is typically more at like a 50-degree wine situation versus a really cold, ice cold beer that we all enjoy.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And so for me, or someone who has boxes and boxes of beer in my cellar that one day I'll drink, let's talk about that for a moment. For this beer specifically, it's a kind of a last question about this one before we move on to this cool video you guys have. And then Pernicious, is this best consumed kind of as soon as you get it? Can you sit on it with the Brett for a couple months? What's kind of, do you have a sweet spot like 5 months later after bottling, it's right in that zone, or kind of to each their own?
I think it's an experience that we've seen, whether it was in our infancy as we began as a brewery, when people would line up to buy our barrel-aged sour beers, to what the product we have here today. So when we talk about our very high-end sour beers, $15 to $20 a bottle. Obviously, in the beer world, that's a very expensive price, but in the wine world, that's an everyday wine. And what we want to showcase is why it should be compared to wine and the complexities of it. So what a lot of people do is they buy three, one to have now, one to share with a friend later, and one to age and see how it ages. And I think that's a great experience. One thing we did with this beverage is we decided to put it in a 4-pack, 12-ounce format so it could be accessible to the consumer, because a lot of it is education. We have these styles called Gozas. They take about 11 days to make. You have a Brett Farmhouse that takes 6 months to make, and you have a barrel-aged sour that takes a year to make. And to the consumer, they might just see sour, and they might assume they're all the same. And sometimes it just takes an education. So we have a brand called Burst. It's a kettle sour that we put out in 6-packs around $10.99 at grocery. And then we have this brand. It's a 4-pack, $12.99 accessible option to experiment and really see the differences in the complexity of a 6-month aged beer. And then we have something around the $14.99 range to really understand the complexities of the barrel-aged sour. And so we appreciate Lowe's giving us the opportunity to showcase this, because sometimes it's just lost because you have to go to a wine shop or you have to go and get educated by someone to really understand what you're experiencing. And it really gets lost in the on-premise and the bar scene, because it's a very hard thing to explain if someone's coming up trying to make an order. So we appreciate the time like today to really explain the process of the beers. And
what I appreciated on the consumer side is that you give me so many different options, whether I want to start out with a Ghost, like you said, and kind of enjoy myself, or get into, I love the idea of the 4-pack, have one now, save one for later. And if you are drinking along at home and you're finding yourself like starting to enjoy this sour beer, that's how you remember. It's time to go back to Lowe's and buy another 4 and continue training yourself to enjoy it. We're going to take a quick break. We'll actually be back in 7 minutes. We're going to bring Pernicious to the party, which is a lot of people's introduction to Wicked Weed. But first, Jordan is going to use magic and transport us into Wicked Weed. And wouldn't we like to be there with him? But we're sure it looks like a barrel of fun. We'll be right back, guys.
Awesome. Thanks, John and Harrison. We're here at the Funk House in Asheville, North Carolina, and I'm hanging out with Wyatt from Wicked Weed. We're going to talk a little bit about their sour beer program and how that makes them different. So let's start with that. What makes Wicked Weed beers different?
So there's a couple things that make our sour program a little bit different from a few others. The first one being is that every grain bill for each beer is built from the ground up, whereas some breweries might produce 2 or 3 or 4 different base sour beers and modify them to make 20 different beers. Every single sour beer that we release is its own entity, designed to best reflect what the final product is going to be. The second thing that makes our sour program unique is we have a house culture called cassette. And it dates back to the infancy of Wicked Weed, when our founders were first starting to trade back and forth homebrewing recipes. They would start to collect the dregs of their favorite sour beers, and we slowly filled up a mason jar with these dregs of these beers. And we've gotten to the point now where we have created that into its own culture and it occupies around 300 barrels on a given day. So it's something that we created and started, and quite honestly, it's something that we couldn't replicate if we wanted to. So we will inoculate everything that comes through the program with different rates of cassette depending on how tart we want the beer to be.
So tell me about spontaneous beer.
Sure. Spontaneous beer is actually kind of the oldest style of beer that exists in the world. The term spontaneous fermentation simply means that you're never purposely adding any sort of yeast culture to the product itself. So the concept of spontaneous fermentation simply means that whatever is doing the fermentation in the liquid is a naturally occurring microorganism that exists in the air around us. You may recognize this lingo as kind of being what makes a classic Belgian goose. However, similar to champagne, you can't make a goose outside of the Zen Valley in Belgium. So we're doing the closest thing that we can to that in the United States here. So we will spontaneously ferment a wild ale using only the microorganisms that exist in the air around us. Basically, we load it into what is a glorified giant kiddie pool. The liquid sits in there on a cold night so that it can start cooling down, and the yeast that exist are going to naturally fall into that liquid and start doing the fermentation. Once we see that fermentation taking hold, we will move it from that tank and start loading it into barrels. So we'll be able to do that process several times a year, and then as we build up 2 and 3 years and 4 years worth of vintages, then we can start blending those together to make what is the end result of our Cultura product.
So roughly how many barrels and foeders and vessels do you have here on site?
It depends on the time of year and what sort of stage of production that we're in, but on any given day, we can house between 2,800 to 3,500 barrels in the warehouse.
Wow, that's a lot. And the foeders?
We have, I believe, roughly 9 foeders back there. They all range in different sizes. We have 2 of the most beautiful, largest foeders you've ever seen in your life that used to be French cognac foeders. We had them delivered here from France and reassembled by some French coopers on site. They hold 100 barrels. We have several 30-barrel foeders. As well as some smaller puncheon type barrels that we're using for the spontaneous program and some of our more high-end sours like the Angel series.
Awesome. And it sounds like you also have a little program on site with a team of woodworkers and metalworkers. Is that right?
Absolutely. I mean, when we're using so many barrels, obviously a barrel will come to a point where it's reached its lifespan with us. And on the level that we're doing things, we find that happening a lot. So we wanted to find a way to be able to repurpose these barrels as much as we can. We have a wood shop that's able to make anything from a clock to a bar stool, to the front end of the bar that we're sitting at right now out of old barrel staves. And to add to that, we decided to start coming in with a metal component from the shop. So we have a complete fabrication shop. We're able to build custom bars. We're able to build the trash can that's in this office right here that's designed to hold 4 different types of waste so that we can sort them properly. But basically the goal was to be able to employ skilled people to be able to kind of carry our vibe and our image and our culture out into the market as we grow a little bit. So if you find yourself at the Charleston River Dog Stadium, you'll see a Wicked Weed bar that's built out of barrel staves. And if you find yourself at the Harris Cherokee Casino, you'll find that you're sitting in stools that are built out of old barrel staves. So we just try and repurpose anything that we possibly can. And the program itself is designed to kind of keep the barrels in use as long as we can, whether it be a fresh red wine barrel-aged sour beer or something that's designed to be more in a neutral barrel. We're able to use these barrels to the fullest extent from the time they show up to the time we break them down to repurpose them into something else.
The Funk House here in Asheville isn't open to the public. So let's go visit the places what you guys love to see when you come to Asheville.
All right, welcome back, everyone. I for one, am jealous. I don't have a stave stool, a stave bar, but whatever, I'll get there. I should probably need to be on a list or something. I understand. But that was really so cool to see, and have your own woodworking metallurgy studio in a brewery. I mean, it makes perfect sense, but you don't see that everywhere. That's awesome.
Yeah, we didn't really get to show it off, but we're doing a lot of things with the fabrication shop, and I think that's one thing, being craft through and through, not just with the beers, the food. We look forward to showcasing a lot of minor league baseball stadiums, major league baseball stadiums, airports, venues, future retail spaces where we can show off the talent of our staff at Wicked Weed, and they're incredible woodworkers and metal workers, full time.
Wow.
So.
And I'd imagine a day of woodworking probably turns into a really nice day of beer drinking.
Well, anything's good with a pernicious, John. That's the key.
That's right.
You, Justin. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. For me, this beer tastes like North Carolina. There's a nostalgia that comes from Wicked Weed and Pernicious, and I remember like back when you'd have to visit Asheville or nearby to get it, and now I can go right over to Lowe's and I can pick some up, and it's made life a lot easier. But there's a question I want to ask. One, pernicious, not a word I say very often, so I started calling them pernies, and I don't know if that's acceptable.
Good. It's working.
Were you around? Do you know where the name pernicious?
Yeah. So I mean, again, I know we have some time constraints, but it's a great story. So first of all, Wicked Weed, we get asked the question all the time: how did you come up with Wicked Weed? And King Henry VIII. Obviously a very polarizing figure. He did not have hops as his cash crop, which is a cousin of marijuana, and he said, look, I abolish hops from being brewed in the beers in our country. I claim them to be the wicked and pernicious weed. So Wicked Weed, the name of the brewery. We have a King Henry mural in our pub, and then Pernicious IPA, which was originally called, actually a funny name, East Side or Die, because of another story, which was not a very marketable name. But when our brewing staff went over and they went to the Great American Beer Festival, which I think we're all aware of, all breweries can enter about five beers into a category, and IPA obviously is the most heavily entered category. And we went over there, and obviously we did not win, and we were frustrated and be like, all these West Coast breweries keep winning all the IPA categories. And on the flight home, Walt and Jessica discussed, we need to make an East Coast IPA that competes against these West Coast breweries. And so on that flight, they designed the recipe. They went back and brewed the beer. And a year later, we won silver medal in the IPA category for Pernicious IPA. And since then, it's obviously catapulted our brand into where it is today. And we continue to focus on Pernicious as a big part of our business for a lot of reasons. But yeah, that's kind of how the Pernicious name and beer got created.
Wow.
I love that story. From beginning to end. That was great.
I know that's rare when you get to turn around and get sweet victory, taste sweet victory, and you guys did in under a year from conception. That's amazing. That was 2015, if my reading skills are still what they should be. But so John's hit the nail on the head. This was the first beers I had from you guys too. It was like such a big deal. Every time I saw a 4-pack of bottles, I would grab it because it would fly off the shelves. Now it's amazing. I can walk down to Lowe's and just pick it up. It still tastes as great as it always has. So I didn't know about it though, or I guess I didn't take, maybe I forgot, was you guys are using New Zealand, Australian, and American hops in this beer. Can you talk a little bit about how like the whole world's getting involved in the hop party in this thing?
So we have over 11 different hops in this beer.
Whoa.
So one of the hops that we use in a lot of our beers, Warrior, is more of a bittering hop. So that's pretty much standard in most of our IPAs. And then we're really focused on the Pacific the Southern Hemisphere and New Zealand. So Pacific Gem, Makueka, a lot of the Centennial, Citra. There's almost not a hop you can't name that's in this beer, but we have a double dry hopping process. We are very focused on how we introduce the hops into the beer. I think Peter touched on it earlier, but we don't just go into the top of the fermenter and drop them in. We have a candy cane shoots them in, and it's a major focus of what we do. And quality is first and foremost what Wicked Weed promotes and talks about. And this beer, it's not always realized to the consumer, but one of the things that we really try to showcase is the freshness and the control of this product throughout distribution, which is a very hard thing to do. So we're all familiar with how we buy milk. What's the first thing you do? You reach behind milk, you grab the freshest dated milk. And it's a process in the IPA category exclusively, but in craft beer that I would love to get towards is where people really focus on the date of the beer. And not only the date of the beer, but how the beer is stored. And so we cold store this beer throughout distribution. And when it gets to the grocery store, we make sure that it has 75 days or fresher. And if you're seeing something that's not 75 days or fresher, you email, you get a free case of beer. We're going to take care of you because we really want you to have the freshest beer experience. I think we all like going to brew pubs. One of the things is the ambiance of the brew pub, obviously, the locality of the brew pub, but you're tasting fresh beer. And we want to deliver fresh beer to the consumer in the grocery store 100% of the time. And if we're not delivering it 100% of the time, then we need to make that back to the consumer. So the beer is built in a way that freshness matters. One of the things that Pernicious is unique is that a lot of times people drink it, they're not IPA drinkers, and they like the beer. And one of the reasons is not because it doesn't have bitterness, which is a lot of reasons why people don't like IPAs, but it doesn't have lingering bitterness. And it's a very dry finishing beers. All of the beers that Wicked Weed does are very dry finishing. So of course you have hops, you have bitterness, but it dissipates in a way that leaves your palate wanting more and really drinkable for a 7.3% beer. So I caution some people because it's going to be my second or third beer of Pernicious today, but it's very drinkable at 7.3%. And a lot of that is the attenuation and the dryness of the product.
This beer has almost, I think, just over 250,000 check-ins on Untappd, which is, I don't know, 1 an hour for most of our lives. But I wanted to say thank you for reminding me that it's 7.3 because I'm about to fly through trivia and be a different man on the other side of it.
Well, yeah, but thank you so much, Joseph, for spending some time with us today, for sharing the insights about Wicked Weed. I learned more about it today. And again, it was one of the first breweries I had when I moved here years ago. So cool to enjoy Pernicious with you. That beer is a legend in many, many ways, from the Gabfa to just being one of those kind of, I don't know, new age East Coast IPAs. It's also a West Coast maybe. It's doing its own thing, and you guys kind of put that on the map. So this is really amazing to have with you today. Thank you again so much for sharing all the stuff you did with us. This was awesome.
Well, appreciate the time, guys. And I think one of the things that showcases the West Coast is it's all about the hops. So we don't hide behind the malt. It's a Pilsner malt, and you're really getting the full flavor of the hops in the beer.
Absolutely. It's amazing. I hope you guys are doing this at home. I keep just sticking my nose in it, and like it's the aroma is unreal. It's just 11 hops, everybody. Crazy.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks again, Justin.
All right. So it's that time again, John. You alluded to it. So hopefully everybody's ready. They have their phone handy. They're feeling smart. Maybe their significant other has Google open next to them. Don't do that. You won't be fast enough.
Google. You need Jordan.
Right. You need. It's anybody's game. But again, only 3 rounds tonight. Only 3. So we're almost halfway done. After this, we'll be, what is it, 66% of the way done or something?
This is the hump round.
Right. This is where, cats become dogs and pigeons become hawks. I don't know. That's an old. Weird.
Harrison's going back to Hogwarts after.
It was a fable I translated from a different language. I may have gotten something wrong. Let's dive in. All right. Ooh, we just covered this. Speaking of, well, not fables. This is real. This is just history. But let's see.
All of these are such good answers, though.
Oh, man. I have a new thing added to my reading list.
Yes. What you forget often is that the Wicked Witch of the West was a huge IPA fan. She was the Wicked Witch of the West Coast IPA. She kept New England's from rising to the top.
Oh, that's right. She wore those high heels to dry hop. That's why she had those shoes. She could get in the top.
Why she was so bitter.
Oh, John, you're in the zone right now.
Oh, I owe that one to a good friend.
So is Melissa jumping to the top. All right, we're still going. It's a tie game. That's right. So all right, don't wait for us to read. You're going to be able to move quicker than John or I.
Yeah,
there's a lot of time for the light to enter my eyes and my brain, and then my mouth, and speak words. Then you should be hitting the answer.
Wow. Okay, people are definitely sharpening their swords here. We've gotten 90% correct answers for the last 2 questions. Jordan's becoming too memorable.
Working
and
hard.
Seriously, the Funkatorium, like,
that was amazing.
What the name itself just makes
3-way tie. I know, 3-way tie right now. We're for first place. Holy cow! Ooh, this is an amazing beer, Black Angel.
Ooh, it is. There were times where I would have waited in line for a day or 2 days, or asked my mother to wait in line for me just so we could get 2 bottles.
I remember that. And all the Angels.
Okay, that's what's splitting them up. Cherries.
That was tough. That was a tough one, but it's all right. It's maybe shaking things up. We'll see.
I think Black Angel taught me how to like cherries. I'm going to go unpack that one at therapy later. But
I think Shirley Temples taught me how to like cherry. That's a different kind of cherry.
A little shake up in the tie situation.
Ooh, still ties. Ties for first and second. Yeah, that was pretty impressive, as you were saying, John. Looking at the Funkatorium, looking at all the barrels, all their funk program is it's unreal. That was really cool. And I can
tell you, mathematically, I could fit about 100 barrels in my whole house if I used my truck.
Yeah. 2,800
barrels.
Nice. Good job, most of you. 85.2%. All right. Ooh, there we go. We have a single leader. Samuel Carter, 515, but tied for second right now. Jim and Dirk and Eric and Melissa tied for third. It's close, though. We did say this.
I wouldn't have known.
This was a quick one. This is a great trivia question. Just dropped, sprinkled in there for a moment.
When I see Serenity, I just think of George Costanza.
Serenity now.
That'd be a great beer name too.
I'm sure there's 90 of them. Yeah.
And cassette, of course, a throwback to everyone's first iPod.
Right. All right, Samuel's still in the lead, but a tie for second. Melissa holding strong in third. The bonus question, all right, this could change everything. Wow. Illegal to take more than 3 sips of beer while that's my kind of town.
Gonna have to sit down real quick.
Sit down, Harrison. Texas.
Maine, I could see how who enforces this law? Like, are there hall monitors running around every bar monitoring who's standing?
He's a beer sitter. All right, Samuel Carter, man, rocketed to the top there with Jim and Dirk and Scott tied for second. Melissa holding strong at third. But again, this is one bonus question away from being anybody's game. Almost.
True. And to that point, when you're not hiding your 3 beer sips from Walker, Texas Ranger, we've got a really special guest coming up next. We're going to be trying some beers from our lovely host here at Highland Brewing Company. Stick around. We're going to be joined by Oscar Wong, the founder and president of Highland. Well, we're going to be starting with Clawhammer's Oktoberfest, and we're going to be asking Oscar what it was like to be one of the first craft brewers in the whole entire state 1,000 years ago when he started this journey. We'll be back right after this quick video.
All right, we are back with a legend, a pioneer, if you will, of North Carolina craft brewing. Oscar Wong. Oscar, how's it going today?
Doing great. I'm enjoying my beer.
Yes, I see you've got a nice stein there of it.
Ooh.
I'm already jealous. So let's dive in. Let's talk about Clawhammer. First of all, I love this name. Let's just start there. Clawhammer. Where did that come from?
Actually, it's a style of banjo playing. And there's a music tradition in the Highlands. And so we thought, well, we'll just, the way it goes. And so we ended up using Clawhammer and just using the banjo and the guy picking at it initially. So
Right, that's right.
we're a little bit weird.
Well, it's working.
Oscar, I think almost everybody watching this may or may not know, but almost everybody in North Carolina should tip their hat to you for helping the state drink better beer. Do you mind if I pivot from this delicious Oktoberfest and ask you what it was like in the early days when you were like, all right, I'm going to give people better beer? Like what prompted that?
Well, it was accidental, actually. I have to admit. I had sold my engineering business and I was home for a while and I was introduced to an award-winning brewer and I've always loved beer. And so we get started. Now, we're the first legal brewery in Asheville since Prohibition. And to correct you, John, earlier you said president. I'm no longer the president. I'm vice president. My daughter, Leah, is the president and CEO. So I come in to drink.
Most important job.
Quality control.
Not as a taster, just drinking. I mean,
Vice president sounds way better.
vice president and founder.
Yeah.
So I can kind of claim that. Anyway, we're one of the early ones in the state, but I have to give my hat to Uli Benowitz from Weeping Radish. He was the first on the coast.
Right.
And there have been others, but we have survived and we got to be the biggest in the state. Not that we looked out to do that, but it happened. We took care of things on a day-to-day basis. We are part of the community, and the biggest thing I can claim is that we're the first legal one here. That's a big deal. I feel really proud of that because they're still making that stuff around here illegally.
Interesting. Let's not give out addresses, but
No. Oh, anyway. So, what else do you want to know from me? Don't be too difficult with your question because
right.
I'm along.
That's
here,
your first beer, right? Oscar's been working all day. We've so if and you're free to answer this any way you like, especially holding a stein. But when you began down this Highland journey, the beer scene in North Carolina was much different. Harrison and I have lived here long enough to see it change a lot. Lowe's Foods introduced me to drinking beer while I'm grocery shopping. What are some of the changes that have happened while you were still kind of at the helm that maybe caught you off guard, or that you were like, this is great, we're gonna, those moments? Are there any of those that you look back on as pivotal?
Well, to begin with, even my close friends said, Oscar, you're going to go broke trying to sell this stuff. Because they were drinking Bud Light. No knock on them. You can't make that beer consistent and hide the flaws. I mean, you've got to be right on your game. So we had more taste, and he wasn't used to it. And it took us a few years to get across to people. We gave a lot of beer away. That's the only way we could market. We couldn't afford it. We didn't have the money. But we would actually carry beer in the trunk of the car. We'd drive around, my brewmaster and myself, and we'd say, okay, we go to a restaurant and a pub and say, we'd like you to try our beer. We're starting making beer up in Asheville. We'd like to try it. So they would. I said, that's pretty good beer. Well, it turns out that we're doing so many things illegally. But,
like a good startup business, yeah.
Well, I must say the statute of limitations have gone, so I can talk about it freely.
Perfect.
I mean, but that's how we got the tasting going on. That's
right.
the only way we could do it.
Yeah, that's amazing. And really the true mark of an innovator and somebody who does something first. I mean, you're the one who kind of finds the line or discovers, I guess we weren't supposed to do that. That's a line I say all the time. I'm sorry, I didn't know I wasn't supposed to. Get me out of a lot of trouble. So seems like all things are good.
What's wonderful is this is America, and you're free to try things.
There you go. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's produced great things like the beers we're drinking today. And I mean, so many innovations, right? To say, go for it. Let's see what happens. Even your friends are saying you're going to go broke. What are you doing? You kind of knew. And that's what got me really excited about reading about your story. You kind of, 1994, that's when you guys started. Obviously, as you said, coming from engineering, that was a different beer world. Were you just knew that things were changing? Did you just knew you had a great beer? Like, what was kind of driving you in those early days when it was out of the trunk of the car and just trying to make it to the end of the week?
Well, prior to that, we had Sierra Nevada and, Boston Lager, Sam Adams. And I thought, we're ready for that because this area up in Asheville, on the top of the mountain where we get first crack of the water, you got to think about that for a while.
Yeah.
We have good water and an eclectic group that would welcome new things. So I thought it'd be a good idea up here. I always loved beer, and I thought this would be the beginning of kind of an American Renaissance. But I didn't really expect more than 2 or 3 breweries in town, frankly. And now there's over 35 in a town of just over 90,000.
Sounds great.
Yeah. No, not so great. I thought I'd corner the damn market, and I've always hated monopolies unless I had it.
Right. That's right. It's good to be the banker. It's amazing. That's so cool that just hearing you talk about that in the beginning and how you kind of saw what was coming, and you were absolutely right. And it's cool as heck to be drinking this stuff these many years later. All right, so we're gonna take a pause for a moment as you guys finish up your claw hammers. We have one beer, one video, and one round of trivia left. So keep enjoying this Killer Oktoberfest and enjoy this video from Highland, and then get ready to grab your Gaelic Ales. We'll be back in 7 minutes.
Thanks, John and Harrison. I'm here in Asheville, North Carolina at Highland Brewing Company with Leah Ashburn, who is the president and CEO of the company these days.
That's right, and a family owner.
Yeah, awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about the history of Highland. You guys were the trailblazers here in Asheville, North Carolina, and you took over a few years ago from your dad, who founded the company. So what is it like trying to balance the tradition and heritage with the new age of craft beer and everywhere the market's going these days?
Yeah, Dad started the brewery in 1994 in a basement in Asheville. And then years later, we moved up to this hilltop location. So we have so much history behind us, over 27 years. So we have a balance now because I get to work with my father of having his original vision and then my leadership, which started in 2015. So it's a mix of generations. It's a father-daughter team. And we've seen our audience change, our beer portfolio change, our destination change to still keep creating a path in the beer industry.
Awesome. So what's it like working with Dad?
It's awesome working with Dad. I don't know if you've ever met him, but he is so smart, so charismatic. He loves people. And so creating a brewery that gathers people and a brand that is welcoming to everyone is really right up his alley. And we keep adding to that now with our destination and having other activities at the brewery and inviting people in to enjoy the beer on a different level that they do in the market. So
tell me a little bit about the things that you've implemented. We've got a whole branding change. We've got some sustainability efforts. What are the things that you've done since you've taken over to kind of, bring Highland into the new era?
Yeah, well, I mean, really it's been me and it's been everybody else too. So the team, my husband is here and he has really led our solar array efforts. So we have 1,045 solar panels and they can power most of what we do. So lots of sunny days here up on the mountain. And so that's been something we're really proud of, to have a globally ranked solar array at what is really a small brewery. We're about 60th in the country among craft brewers, but our brewery, our solar array is ranked in the top 10. So that's pretty awesome.
Part of the awesome experience of being here at this facility is all the different beers that are on tap here that aren't available in grocery stores and bars kind of outside of this area. How do you guys kind of go about deciding what goes on tap? And tell me a little bit about your operations here.
Yeah, so we have a pilot room, and so it's just a 3-barrel system, and we're constantly doing R&D in there. We might be testing out a new hop or a new yeast. We might be going through the 3rd or 30th iteration of a beer that we're trying to develop for the market. So it's a really exciting place. We have 2 really talented people in that room. But the way that they take input is from a much larger set from Highland, which can also come from our customers that come in the tap room. We hear from hospitality. We hear from our long-range planning group. So what you see on the tap wall could be the next greatest thing that's in the grocery store. And there's at least a dozen selections right now that are small batches you can't find anywhere else, and always a good reason to come out.
And I think that's cool because there's something here for you to come try new things, and it's not just the stuff you see on the grocery store shelves. There's so much more to Highland. There's so much innovation going on that you guys are still growing into. Okay, so here at the Highland Brewing Company kind of tap room, there are a lot of other spaces outside of this room that we're in. Tell me a little bit about the planning of that and what all you have here.
We have so much at this brewery. We're trying to develop a destination where people can immerse themselves in everything that they come to the mountains for and everything that they love about Highland. So pulling those 2 things together, we started out really as a manufacturing facility, and now we have this giant tap room that we're in. We have the front porch. We have the meadow where we can fit a few thousand people for a large concert. We've got 3 professional grade sand volleyball courts out there, a disc golf course that is opening very soon. And then on the private event side, we've got the barrel room, the event center, and the rooftop bar.
So a lot of cool facilities here. Tell me about your downtown tap room.
Right, so it took us a really long time, but we finally have a remote tap room in downtown Asheville, which is like a homecoming for us because that's where we started. So now we're in a historic building, Art Deco. It is gorgeous, and the first floor is a food hall. The second floor is a Highland tap room. So everybody needs to check us out, both on the hill and downtown Asheville.
Well, thank you so much for your time. We've really appreciated this. You've told us so much about the different features here at the tap room. I think we're going to go do some exploring.
That sounds great. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you. This is an awesome space. Can't wait to see what it looks like when it's full of people. That's more like it. What's going on, Steve? Leah told us all about the great activities they have here on the facility. One of them is this brand new 18-hole disc golf course they're just installing right now. Steve hasn't quite graduated from throwing off the tee pad just yet. Leah's a huge volleyball fan, and they had 3 beautiful regulation sand volleyball courts installed right here on the property. You can reserve a court to come play, or even join one of their leagues. Steve joined the league. It's a beginner's league. One of the coolest parts of the campus here at Highland Brewing Company is the concert venue outside called the Meadow. They do concerts all the time. Tonight's isn't until 8 p.m., but Steve wanted to get a good seat. To top it all off, they've got over a mile of hiking trails right here on the property for you to explore. However, you can't take your beer with you on the trail. Also, there may be some bears, so be careful, Steve. Speaking of beer, let's get back to the beer.
Welcome back, everyone. You almost caught me with a mouthful of all the delicious food that Lowe's put into these beer boxes. Super excited to drink a Gaelic Ale with you, Oscar. I haven't drank this beer in such a long time. Do you have any stories about this icon in North Carolina beer that you want to share with me while we're here for a minute?
Sure. We actually started it as Celtic Ale, which is more appropriate for the people. And within 6 months, we got a letter from Bert Grant in Oregon who said, "Hey, we've got a patent on that name." I said, that was quite a surprise, but we scrambled and said, okay. So we came up with Gaelic, which more commonly refers to the language. And within 6 months, we had it changed, and it was a surprise because we started in Asheville, North Carolina, and this letter came from Oregon.
Wow.
How the hell did they find out about us in Oregon? Oh, well.
Your marketing was great.
Right.
I guess it was better than I thought.
Right. Or their lawyers were just very busy. But either way, I mean, again, it's become this icon, this beer where you see it everywhere. It was the beer when I moved here. Everybody was like, you got to have I asked my friends at work at Untapped, what should I try? What are the beers that you guys enjoy? And everybody was like, you have to try Gaelic Ale. You have to know this. You have to try this beer. So I feel like everyone in North Carolina is an ambassador for this beer to anybody moving here, which is great. And that'll always be a fond memory that I have in discovering this beer. But for you, obviously, Oscar, you know all about it. So I'm going to ask you about food. And when you're just, again, as you said, coming into the, to the brewery, having a couple of pints, is there a food you like to pair with this when you're having it at home? Do you like to pair it with something, or is it kind of just go with everything? That kind of makes it great.
Well, one of the things that we feel really strongly about is that our Gaelic Ale pairs more with a broad array of foods than most beers. Now, I will say that with a Pilsner, we might have some German foods. With some, let's say, French food, we might have some more Belgian style, but Gaelic goes with all of them.
Yeah.
And, but I would say I discovered pizza when I came to the U.S. in 1959, before y'all were born. And I walked in my freshman year dorm, ran out to get the pizza, walked in, and the pizza is straight up and down under my arm. My buddy said, "Oh my God, send him back to Jamaica." I never lived it down, but I discovered beer and pizza really pair well. And I think the Gaelic does too. So that's one of my experiences coming to the U.S. Learning
After
about
hearing
it.
that, I'm surprised you didn't launch like a calzone firm instead of going
Right.
into beer.
Right.
No, I started beer pretty early. And as a Chinese family, when I was about 11 or 12, I got my first couple ounces of beer because my dad thought if you have hot foods, now that means it's maybe it's meats, roasted meats, not necessarily spicy. They're considered hot. So you had to have either 2 ounces of beer or 2 ounces of hard cider. And I developed a taste for it at a very early age. And I still have a taste for it.
Are there, I think obviously Highland's pretty well known in Carolina and expanded from there, but are there any beers that you think of if we take Highland off the table, some of the beers that might have influenced you early on?
Well, I grew up with Red Stripe out of Jamaica.
Sure.
We didn't have time to make a lager. It takes too long. It takes twice as long.
Yeah.
But I would say beers that, back in the old days, regional beers in the Midwest, Blatts and Hams, and I
Yeah.
loved all those beers. Though some of them don't exist anymore. But in the modern day, I would say when I was having friends in home, we get a little Bud keg, half keg of Bud. So all beers work for me. I have what they call a universal acceptance of beer. I
That's a great
enjoy
approach.
all the different styles, different times, different situations. I'm on it.
Right. I think a wise man said the best beers in the world are a cold beer, a free beer, and the next beer. So I'm with you there. Right. But a great point though about different occasions, different foods, different events, different. I mean, right. Beer is meant to be paired with life, and life is all sorts of things. So it's good to have all sorts of beer.
I want this to keep going. I feel like this is therapeutic now.
Everyone breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth.
Well,
Say with me, take a drink.
when you get old enough and experienced enough, you get philosophical about things, and that's where I'm at.
That sounds nice.
So don't get too technical, guys.
No, never. Not tonight.
What temperature is the beer? No. How many yeasts are in? We can skip most of those questions. I'm more interested to hear about kind of, again, like your story and what you went through to build this.
Well, John, it's serendipitous. I've always been quite fortunate my whole life, really, about a lot of things. And from the Chinese tradition, I was born in the year of the dragon, and that's it's a big deal. If you're a dragon, you're going to be lucky, and I have been lucky. Very fortunate to meet a lot of the right people, the right times, and they've taken good care of me. And the only thing I can do right now is I paid forward to people who, the ones that helped me, I cannot help them. They're gone. So I can pay it forward and take care and hope that people follow in that regard. But I started doing engineering fresh out of school. That was what I was programmed to do. And I was fortunate enough to sell the business. And then I was home for a few years. And my wife thought it was a great idea to just take a break because I could.
Yeah.
And after 4 years, I came home to tell her that, I met this award-winning brewer. He wants to start a brewery, and he wants me to join him. And I didn't finish the whole story. She said, "Oh my God, I can't think of something better for you to do." She would have said that no matter what it was. 4 years into it is a long time. And this November, in a couple months, we've been married 54 years.
Wow.
So we've survived it. So I'll drink to that too, because
Cheers. Yes, that's
I feel
congratulations.
like I deserve a medal.
That's 54 Hollywood marriages.
Right.
Well, to answer your question about being in the Asheville area in particular,
Yeah.
Starting in the 20s, this was always known as a destination for vacationing and so forth, and so you went through a good time, and then we had the crash, and then it'd been a bad time for 50 years, and then there's a renaissance going on again, and we hope we don't go too fast, too far, because everything has a way of balancing out over time. So we're trying to be very deliberate and intentional about what we do, how much we do. We've been in business for 27 years, and most companies, most breweries are way bigger than we are, or they don't exist. So we're kind of in the middle. We're steady, and we're staying in a local area. We're in 4 and a quarter states.
So one of the questions that I hope everyone will benefit from, I feel like everybody watching this is somewhere in or around North and South Carolina, and Asheville's, like you said, it's still, even for me out here on the East Coast of Carolina, Asheville is like a vacation spot. When we are fortunate enough to come out there and visit you guys, is there any little maybe Asheville haunts or like places where you've had a really good time that you'd be willing to share with us for when we can come visit?
There are too many to really list. But I will admit that I'm a member of 3 different dive bars that you have to join and pay your $1 a year. We have to do that privately. Okay.
All right. That sounds good. I'm in for that. Yeah. As long as they have Gaelic Ale on tap, let's go. I'll go wherever.
But there's so many things to do here. That drove us. We lived in Charlotte before we moved up here full time. And I tell you, we love coming up here every weekend to hike, nature. There's, the standard, Biltmore, Grove Park, and now we have a real beer scene here. And I have to tell you, coming back to that, we thought we were the big guns around town, and then New Belgium and Sierra Nevada and Oscar Blue show up in our backyard. That caused some sleepless nights, I got to tell you. But
right.
We had to up our game, and we're hanging in there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it seems like Leah's doing pretty well. Maybe it was a smart move to hand her the roles.
It's a dream come true, I have to admit. We circled each other for many, many years trying to get her to come in, but eventually I have to give her husband credit, because I called him one day and I said, "Hey, I'm guessing that your husband is saying you're not that interested in taking over the family business, Highland Brewing. Are you nuts?" She laughed. She said, "Oh my God," almost word for word, just the way he'd been talking to her. So it's for real. He finally came on board, and she was never ready. She just thought she wasn't ready. She put me on for 1.5 years to become president. And I'm aging out really fast. And I said, "You got to get on it." I said, "Sweetie, you're never ready. You just get in and do it. You'll be fine. And if you're not, so be it." Well, turns out the first 6 months she got in, she didn't say a word. She just listened to the meetings, and I thought, she got it. She's not going to take over because she's the founder's daughter. I loved it. And she's done a terrific job. So people have learned now not to come to me with any questions because I'll just go check with Lee. I don't know what the hell's going on.
But please grab me another pint. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's the way it should be. That's amazing.
I'm living a dream.
I vacation there, Oscar, but it does seem like you have fully lived up to the year of the dragon.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't know what that means for Harrison and I. I believe it's the year of the donut. But perhaps the year of the lager.
I'm living up to that. No problem. That's easy.
Well, you just do the best you can because life throws stuff at you every day. And it's how you respond and react to it that makes things move or work or not work. So I think if you just accept the fact that nothing's ever going to run smoothly and sail down the river.
That's right.
It can be rapids.
Yep. You prepare for the worst, you hope for the best. But I will say it does make it easier knowing at the end of the day there's a Gaelic Ale cold waiting for me just to smooth out all those rough edges. And
I love it.
You know?
I love it. That's good.
Oscar,
I could read a better script for that anyway.
He'll forget it. So it's good that he got it on tape. Oscar, I can't thank you enough for taking some time out of your busy schedule of professionally drinking beer to come hang out with us and drink like an amateur for a little bit. Thank you on behalf of the entire state that I live in and all the beers that I drink. And thanks for joining us today.
Yes. And thanks for all you guys do. This is awesome.
My pleasure.
Of course. Cheers.
And as I recover from my moment of starstruckness, I'm reminded it's round 3. It's trivia final round. Hopefully you remember some of the video that we showed you with Jordan earlier. And hopefully someone has it in them to catch up with Sam Carter because it's going to be, well, here we go. We got questions queued up.
That's right. This is Sam's game to lose. Let's see. But again, it's a trivia third round. This is where anything can happen. All right, here we go. This was let's see what happens. You never know. We're at the end of the day. We've enjoyed some libations.
Yeah, this part of the events are always so much better because we just drank a bunch of beers. Is Call of Duty a sport?
It's about to be. Volleyball. That's right. Getting in the sand, just like Tom Cruise with my jeans on, checking my watch, flexing to check my watch. Top Gun.
That was an accurate portrayal and a good spot of catching up for most of the people gaining on first place.
Yeah, there's a three-way tie for second. Melissa's got third on lock, but watch out for her.
Don't let Harrison distract you. The spiced ale from Highland that gets its own release.
If you're in the Carolinas, you know this. This beer is a big deal.
I remember the first time when I was at the beer den, we got these in, and I went to, can I have one of these for myself? I'll pay for it, but are we allowed?
No. Get out of here, John.
That's a great
Gold Mountain.
It tastes like Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait. Soon enough, it's 900 degrees out, but soon it won't be, and it'll be cold mountain season. Sam Carter, come back and play. Look at this. But Dirk, Jim, and Scott jumping up into second, all tied. Melissa rocking and rolling to third. Ooh, that was a cool looking building. Amazing.
Every bank is a cafeteria.
Well, right. Anything a cafeteria if you try hard enough. If you actually own the place. No, I'm having lunch here. Savings or checking? I'm just having lunch.
Split most of the crowd.
Ooh, I thought it was a bank cafeteria. All right.
I'm just like waiting on the edge of my imaginary seat to see what happened at the leaderboard.
Whoa! Here, I told you, Scott making moves. Look at this. Then Sam in second, and Dirk and Jim in third, and Lanny, welcome to the program.
Highland rebranded in 2018, retiring the old logo that featured what character?
Good question. Sure, if you've been in a Lowe's before 2018, you know this because it was one of the first beers you saw when you walked into the beer den.
If you've been in the Lowe's a lot, you might have got confused by that black bear.
Right.
Beer den.
Bear. Yep. Scotsman. Correct. Most people knew that. Bigfoot would have been fun. Scott's in first, but there, Sam's out of his nap and he's back. He's answered that question. Dirk and Jim. Now this is all right. This is a shakeup. Love it. Love the last round. This is one of those tricky ones. Those SAT questions. Organizations are not one of Highland's partner nonprofits. Ooh.
Yeah. Highland does a lot of like nonprofit charity work. I always think that's really cool when you can take the time to do something like that as well.
Yep. Shadowmore. That's a cool name.
Sure is. It's where He-Man lives.
I was going to say, I didn't want to, right. I think I know. That was an old Uriah Heep album. That's a joke.
Scott.
No one will get. Scott!
Holding on to first place. Obviously, the bonus question is going to be integral. When is National Beer Day in the United States?
Ooh, all right. Can only be one of these.
All of them are a great day to drink a beer.
Yep. Yeah, I was going to beat me to the punch there. You must have had less Gaelic Ale than I have, John.
April, and only 11%. Oh, big shake here.
Here we go. This is it.
April 7th. Who decided that a week after April Fool's Day?
Right. No, seriously, it's the day. Scott!
Ooh, by a
hair. Look at Melissa! Yes, I was worried about her. She dropped out of third, fired back into second. Hats off to Melissa for making moves at the end there. Scott, great stuff, taking the cake, I think. Dirk coming in third. Sam and Eric. I mean, everybody did great, but that was one of those classic trivia rounds, John, where up and down, left and right, I was on the edge of my actual seat.
There's a Christian Laettner reference that I don't know enough how to do, but in my head, where I live in my head, Melissa, you're the Christian Laettner of this trivia challenge today.
That's good. Fair enough. Fair reference. Good, John.
And Scott, of course, not to downplay, Scott, congratulations. Your next beer box compliment of Lowe's Foods is free. All you have to do is check your email in a little bit, and you'll be able to join us on September 25th without having to pay for it, which, like I hinted at earlier, is great. Everything tastes better when it's free.
That's right. Free beer, all that stuff. You hit the nail on the head there, John.
I'm a medium plus carpenter, and not a carpenter or a woodworker or even qualified to be near a hammer after all the beers we drank today.
Right. Yes.
If you were sipping on something and you loved it, maybe you want to go back and score some more. Remember that there's Lowe's Foods locations all across the best part of the world, North and South Carolina. And you can visit Highwire, Wicked Weed, and Highland Brewing Company in Asheville or any of their many other locations as well.
Yes. And congratulations again to the trivia winners. Scott taking home the cake. But, I mean, everyone, it was such a thrill for us to watch. I had a blast. It really is, I felt like I was watching an old school or listening to an old school radio show, just a lone rider right into town. It was every time that screen of who answered what and when popped up, it was a different name at the top. So that was a blast. And I want to give a shout out to Bree and Robert, shouting out the produce manager of the Walkertown store. I believe they're getting married right where everything was hosted tonight. Am I right, John?
Yeah, I think that's correct. In fact, probably happening right now. So if you have any Gaelic left, raise a toast for Bree and Robert beginning their own Highland journey right in Highland. You would have said it better than me, Harrison.
That was great.
I think, they're probably mid-nuptials at the moment, even though we don't have live footage on it.
Nope.
I also want to thank everybody that tuned in on your Saturday afternoons and evenings to drink beer with me and Harrison and three very qualified people.
That's right. And thank you to Highland for hosting. Heads up, Bree and Robert, I think Oscar is about to jump into your wedding, so get ready to dance and shake a tail feather or whatever kids do these days. Gonna be great.
Also want to thank Wicked Weed and Highwire for coming down and meeting the Lowe's team and everyone in Asheville to be part of this event as well.
And thank you to Team Lowe's Foods. I mean, you guys put this event together. It's always amazing. John and I have so much fun getting to drink beer and talk to it with experts and just be amateur beer drinkers, which we're experts at. And, you know, there are still some of these virtual beer hunt boxes left and full of some of Asheville's finest beer available at the Lowe's. If you guys want to get some, great. You can rewatch this and do this again tomorrow. It's your life. Do what you want.
True. And one of the greatest things about doing events like this, as opposed to watching pre-recorded TV like it's 1994 again, is you can actually provide feedback. In fact, we'd love to hear what you liked about the event, what we can do to improve on the next one. Do you want more sunglasses on Harrison, more people talking about Brettanomyces? Scan this QR code and fill out a quick survey about your experience. It'll only take a couple of minutes, and we use that feedback to plan the next event. Speaking of which, Harrison, what do we got coming up next?
That's right. You don't have to wait long to come see John and I drink more beer with the experts. Check this out, September 25th. We're virtually going to Charlotte, all of us. So we're enjoying some Heist, some beers from Birdsong, Resident Culture. I mean, three of the best. That is going to be unreal. Saturday, September 25th. We hope you guys can join us then.
I am already excited about hopefully jalapeno, but we'll see about that.
We'll see
in about a month. Thanks again for joining. Stay home where it's safe, or Uber home safely if you need to. We'll see you in a little bit.
Exactly, guys. Have a great rest of the night for joining us. Cheers.